Okay, this is a very sensitive topic, and I don't do sensationalism here, but I believe that there is something for all of us to learn in breaking down this footage from the classroom. As you can see by the title of the video, a teacher is going to be hurt here in the midst of breaking up a fight. I I'm This is from a year ago. I believe that her physically her body is healed, but definitely there's no telling how long it can take emotionally and psychologically for that healing to take place. And I just pray for nothing but blessings her way to this dedicated teacher. One of the things that you're going to need to establish, like we as teachers, we're trained to establish our philosophy of teaching. You're going to need to establish what is your philosophy as it relates to breaking up fights. Now it's going to be different between depending on the level that you're teaching. If you just got a couple of kindergartners, you can. I think a lot of people could just say and just keep them separated until help arrives. But when you get to, I would say, fourth, fifth, just depending on the size of the students. As they get older, the size of the student changes. And so you're going to have to think about that. You're going to have to decide in your mind, okay, if, heaven forbid something like that happens, what do I do in that situation? And that's why we're going to break down this film and we're going to talk about it. And I invite our seasoned teachers who are watching this video to leave a comment in the comment section and talk about what are some of your tips that you have that I may not have covered in this video. How do you break up fights? Okay, so I would, for me, my philosophy was I don't break up fights, and I would tell students that I would make that known that I don't break up fights. So if you're having a disagreement with a student, I would encourage you to seek mediation from an adult in the building because Dr. Bird does not break up fights. So if you want to flex, show that you're tough stuff, and hope that Dr. Bird holds you back, it's not going to happen. If you're going to talk tough and you don't really want to fight, but you want to be held back, but the other person wants to fight, you're going to be in trouble. So I would tell students that, and I taught high school, so I could really say it pretty much just the way that I just said it to let them know plainly and clearly I am not breaking up fights. I don't get paid enough to do that, and I don't want to get hurt in the midst of breaking up a fight. Don't get paid enough for that. And besides, I leaned on and I emphasized that there are things that we do in this community, in this classroom. There are things that are acceptable, and there are things that are not acceptable in terms of how we treat each other. So there's a lot of things that I did to prevent fights and encourage students to change the way they think. If you really want to fight that person, no, 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 no. Now you're in this environment. How about you change the way that you think? Because there's a certain way that we treat each other in this classroom. So, in my 12 years of teaching high school, I had one fight in the class. And I'll never forget it. It was, I don't know. I had this bell in my class, and whenever a student got a right answer, they would click the bell. I would click the bell, and I think another student got his hands on it, and he was encouraging students. He was doing what I would do. Hey, if a student got an answer right, you click the bell. Well, another student was just tired of the person, clicking the bell, and he said, "Hey, stop clicking that bell." And he didn't ask very nicely. And so the other person with the bell said, "I'm gonna click, 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 click." And so then that's when it started. So what I did was I instructed, from a distance. I said, "Hey." I use my voice. That's the number one thing you need to do. You use your voice. Is to remind them that, hey, there's an adult in this room. There's an adult in this room. And then I instructed the other students to get out of the way because I wasn't sure if they wanted to, if they were gonna dance or not, if they were just gonna talk or if they were gonna dance. Well, turns out they danced. They danced, and it's just really interesting because I had already set the expectation for myself that I'm not breaking up this fight. So the kids knew, if they were going to dance, they were going to dance. So it was beautiful the way the kids responded. Everyone else moved out of the way, and then these two male students, they immediately went to the ground. That's what happens to a lot of fights. It just immediately goes to the ground. They have a headlock, whatever. So they're wrestling, whatever, and I just from a distance, I get down on one knee and I said, "Hey guys, when you're done, you need to go to the office." So it was just really, really interesting that they on their own, they got to a point where, okay, I don't want to do this anymore. So once they both get up, I stagger sending them to the office. I send one student to the office, call the office. Hey, got a student coming. Just let me know when they get there. Once I got word that student got there, then I sent the other student. But it was over just like that because of the work that I had done on the front end and establishing, if this, then that. I'm not breaking up a fight. I'm not doing it. So that's my philosophy. I don't break up fights. But there are people who decide that, they want to break up fights. And there's a way there's a way to do that. It's definitely messy. Now, let me go back and say that I didn't break up fights, but if I saw like two students beating up on one student, yes, I would intervene in that. Yeah, because I physically I could, and I just don't want to see anything like that go down. So I would intervene, and thankfully I never had to intervene in anything like that where it was 2-3 on one or something like that. So I would intervene to protect another student in that situation. Now let's get into this video here, because here you see, it's going to start right here. Here we have the teacher. Now there's a lot that we're not seeing because, the recording starts in the midst of this thing. But I want to set it up for you. What you have here is you have a teacher. There's an altercation between two students. And you have the teacher right here. She is going to be addressing one of the students off camera over here. So you saw her, and it's, let's see if I can get it back there. So you saw her pointing. She's pointing. There we go. So she's addressing one student who is involved. And it looks like she's got control of that situation because the student, go to the office. Go to the office. But behind her, this is the issue. Behind her is the other student. And because of her positioning, she can't see what that other student is doing. She can only hear. And, doing this because I served as a principal as well. And as a principal, we break up fights. But this is just all too familiar that this student here, she's and perhaps someday we'll do a study of what happens in the body when you're in the midst of a fight, or a fight's about to happen, or you're angry with another person. But the only way I can describe it is she's amping herself up. She's amping herself up. Profanity. Sometimes I've seen this. After to emphasize the things that they're saying, just like, "Oh, mama," they'll say things like that, and they're amping themselves up. Like internally, it's just building. It's just building to the point where the results, the outward results, are an act of violence. That's what's happening. Now, the issue is the positioning of the teacher. If you establish that you don't want to break up fights, you're not going to be a teacher who breaks up fights. That's going to dictate your position, the positioning of your body if something does go down in your room. Now, not all verbal altercations devolve into a fight. But I would say you treat it as if, oh no, there's about to be a fight. Okay? So I would argue that now you have a teacher in the middle of two students who are having a verbal altercation, right? And it could, or maybe not, devolve into a fight. You don't know. But you have to conduct yourself as if there's a fight about to go down right now. So in that scenario, if you do want to break up fights, if you decided that, yes, I'm a teacher who will break up fights, then positioning is important. So if you want to break up fights at this point, being in the middle of two students who are having a verbal altercation, you're a teacher who's breaking up a fight. You're breaking up a fight. Your mission is to prevent violent physical contact between two students. That's what you're trying to do by positioning yourself in the middle. Now, the unfortunate part is, like, we're not trained for this. We're trained to plan lessons, to manage a classroom. That's what we want to do, right? We don't want to break up fights. We don't want to get in the middle of this messiness once it's boiled over to something like this, where we're moving furniture or recording to see if something interesting happens. No, we don't want that. But it's happened. All right, let's keep going. Again, I want you to understand this for perspective, for the sake of perspective. The teacher, cannot see what this student is doing. They can only hear. But just remember from this that all of that talking, profanity, just saying what I'm going to do to you, a lot of that is it's a reflection of what's boiling on the inside. And ultimately, if that continues to go on, that could possibly boil over to the point where they do actually do something. So, teacher has her back to this student. So what we wanted, well, okay, let's keep going. There's so much here. So it looks like she's got compliance from that student. She has compliance from that student who she's looking at. That student looks like she's got that student out the door to the principal's office. Okay? and looks like she's about to turn her body to address this other student. But remember, she can't see what this other student is doing. Turning around, about to. So that's awful. There was, and see, just when anyone gets like this, where they're just so angry and so upset, this student didn't mean to hit the teacher. Didn't mean to hit the teacher, but she thought that she could clear it over the teacher's head to hurt the other student. So let's just, I just really don't want to be sensational in any way. So let's just skip a frame ahead. And so sadly, you heard one of the students in the background say, yeah, and he said it shortly after the teacher was hit in the head with a chair, which is, I don't know. So the other thing that I want to point out, so what would I advise a teacher to do in that situation where you have some space, between the students? First of all, I'm hoping that maybe she did instruct the student to hit the panic button or get some help. Instruct the student to hit the panic button or get some help. And then just one of the main tools that you have in this situation is your voice. Just establishing yourself as I am the adult in this room. I am the authority in this room. We will not have this. Now, definitely that doesn't always work. But it was it really worked for me. Whenever I would come up on something before I physically got involved, I would just, hey, and it would just like be from right down there, just letting them know that. And then I think what that did as well is that gave them the cue that, okay, the adult is here. I know you really don't want to fight, so if you just stop. Just stop right now. You can save face, and then we'll go from there. So in this situation, I believe what you want to do is you want to keep the threat. You want to keep it in front of you. And with this situation, she had some distance with this student that she's talking to off camera. So that's a good thing. So this student is complying. Okay, this student is complying. So that's what you want to do. You want to keep everything in front of you. So you don't want to be in the middle. What I would have done is, because it looks like based off of this video clip that there's no one else in the classroom who wants to get involved in the fight. So what I would have done is I would have come out here a little bit, have my back to the class so that I could see the two people who are engaged in this verbal altercation. And if these two students are in front of me, the one by the door, I'm assuming, go to the office. Go to the office. Johnny, hit the panic button. Sarah, go to the office. Go to the office right now. And you could, say you can probably try your best to calm the other student down who eventually threw the chair. But what you want to do, if you've got one listening to you, then you continue to give that directive. The one that's closest to the door, I like that. You're closest to the door, go to the office. That was that was perfect what she did there. Go to the office. So, and the other thing too is you want to have your hands free. If you've decided that I break up fights, you got to keep those hands free. Keep the hands free. Why? because if they try to come at each other, you can give them one of these. Or if the one who threw the chair, she seems like the one who was more aggressive, you can go like this. Nope, we're not doing that. So you want to keep your hands free. The other reason you want to keep your hands free is, okay, let's say she's standing in the middle. Okay, she's in the middle here. You've got your head moving on a swivel. That was the other thing that I was doing. You have your head on a swivel. You see a projectile coming. It gives you a chance to protect yourself. So that's what I would suggest. And again, it stinks that we're having to kind of game plan this, but that's the situation that we have. So again, I would come out. My back is to the class, and at an angle, almost like a triangle. I've got the two students in front of me, and I'm going back and forth, just making sure that I'm protected. But I've got this student close to the door. If I can get them to listen after I've instructed someone to hit the panic button and get me some help here, because and that's important. That part is important, because you just sometimes, just depending on where your classroom is, you just don't, help may take a little bit longer to get there. So make sure you designate a student to go get some help or hit that panic button. Then as you're in that triangle, as you form that, if you've been able to form that triangle without, before it, like physically, before it devolves into a physical altercation, you've got control of the situation. Like, she actually did have control of the situation. The just unfortunate part is this student behind her was just so amped up. And some of the details I've been able to find is she's claimed that she was being bullied, and it's just, someone in the comment section of the video said that when she gave her public apology, she didn't really take responsibility. They were blaming the school, and I've seen that happen before, and that's unfortunate. So again, to sum it up, you have to decide whether or not you're going to be a teacher who's going to break up fights. That's going to dictate your positioning. If you're gonna be one who breaks up fights, that means that you're right there. You're right there in the middle, ready to go hands on. Now, I would say verbal altercations, you treat them as they are fights. Verbal altercations typically happen before a fight. Now, when it comes to de-escalation, it's important to make sure that you position yourself so that you can keep yourself safe. Now, when they start fighting, there really is no science to that. There really is no science to breaking up a fight. You just use your voice. Make sure you send someone to go get some help. But there's no telling what can happen once you 100% get involved and you start breaking up that fight. There's no telling what's going to happen in the midst of you breaking up that fight. Understand that you could be hurt yourself if you go to break up fights. Now, this looks like these are two females. It's going to be just hair grabbing and just pulling them apart. There's just it's really messy, and it's also dangerous with all of the furniture in the room and everything. So the key takeaway is decide if that's what you want to do. Do you want to break up fights or not? And then positioning. Make sure that you position yourself so that you can keep yourself safe during a verbal altercation, and just pray that that by the things that you've established in the classroom, the relationships that you've established, pray that you can make a withdrawal and students will listen to you in that time of crisis and stop doing what they're doing. So that's our video for today. Again, I just pray just blessings for this teacher. I hope that she's still teaching. I hope that this didn't cause her to look for another profession. Yeah, it's just so very sad. So thank you so much for watching. Again, if you have any tips, things that you do, things that work for you, for our people who are they're interested in the profession and becoming a teacher, or maybe this is their first or second year. If you got any tips, please leave them in the comments section. Thank you so much for watching, and until we meet again, don't forget that teachers are leaders.